Hi internet, welcome to my channel. My name is Abby, this is Abby's Amateur Astronomy, and welcome back. Welcome to 2023. I hope you guys had a great new year. I hope you had a wonderful end of 2022 and got to take some time off, got to celebrate with friends and family. I thought I would kick off 2023 with a very classic events video of what celestial events and astronomy events can we expect to happen in 2023 in this coming year. This is just going to be a very brief overview. I'm also not going to get every single event, so if there's anything that I missed that you are looking forward to, please let us know down in the comments. That would be great. Okay, starting off in January. This video is coming out at the end of the first week of January, so a couple of these events would have already happened by the time you're seeing this, but it's fine. We're just gonna ignore that fact. January 3rd, we're gonna kick off with the first meteor shower of the year. It is the quadrantid meteor shower. It's pretty strong, pretty powerful, with about 50 to 100 meteors per hour at its peak. So on the 4th, the night right after, Earth is gonna be at its perihelion, which means at its closest point to the sun. This really has no impact on us. We're not gonna notice a difference. Some people might think that the closer Earth is to the sun, maybe the hotter it is, but actually what dictates temperature is more so the direct sunlight. It has way more to do with the tilt of Earth and at what point is pointed towards the sun, getting the most direct rays. That part's going to be the hottest. So on January 4th, we're going to be at its closest point to the Earth, but it's still going to be winter here in the northern hemisphere. It'll be somewhere in the southern, but that's just because Earth is tilted with the northern hemisphere pointed away from the sun. So on January 6th, we have our first full moon of the year. Because it's the first one of the year, it's sometimes called the wolf moon, but that will happen on January 6th. On January 12th, Mars is going to end its retrograde motion. Might mean something astrology, but I don't really know what it is. But in astronomy, what that means is just because of the way orbits line up and how our perspective is viewed from Earth, which is also orbiting as Mars is orbiting and everything else is orbiting. There are some points at which Mars appears to be going backwards in time, and that period of time where it looks like it's going opposite of its orbit, which it's not actually doing. That's just from our perspective, it just looks like it is. That period of time is known as retrograde. So for Mars, that period ends on the 12th, and after which it'll be traveling in its normal east to west motion after that. So on January 22nd, we have something called a Venus-Saturn conjunction. And a conjunction just means that from our perspective, the two objects in the sky that we're talking about just look like they're touching. So on the 22nd, it'll look like Venus and Saturn are practically touching in the night sky. I know these are really popular with astrophotographers. I think you can get some really cool photos, some really cool perspectives. So if you have any cool photos, please send them to me, or I would be absolutely interested in seeing them. So on the 22nd is the conjunction between Venus and Saturn. Those two objects will be touching. So moving on to February. February kind of starts out with a bang. So on February 1st, it's when the comet C 2022 E3, also known as ZTF, is supposedly going to be at its brightest. And there are some estimates that say it's going to get up to a magnitude of 6. And if that happens, big if, but if that happens, then it'll be visible with the naked eye, which is very exciting because the last comet we were able to see without binoculars or telescopes or anything like that was comet Neowise back in 2020. This ZTF gets to a magnitude of 5 or 6, we will be able to see it, which will be very cool. Supposedly, we'll be able to see it around the North Star, so Polaris, which if you're looking directly north will be straight up into the sky, and it won't be as big as Neowise, or you're not going to see its distinctive tail like Neowise, but you can supposedly, if we can see it with the naked eye, we'll see it with a little smudge. If you do have telescopes, if you do have binoculars, I think this might be kind of cool for binocular astronomy, but you'll definitely be able to see it with the telescope, even if it doesn't reach a magnitude of 6. Either way, I'm expecting some very cool astrophotography photos of this event as well. So I'll keep a lookout for that. On February 16th, we have a Saturn-Sun conjunction, or a heliojunction. Again, it's gonna look like Saturn is gonna touch the sun. On February 19th, we have our first planned launch. Actually, there was a launch at the very beginning of January, but I skipped it because this video is gonna come out way after that. But anyways, on February 19th, we're gonna have our very first scheduled launch. It is the Crew 6 mission to the International Space Station. I believe this is gonna be on a Dragon 2 spacecraft made by SpaceX, but the mission is gonna have 4 astronauts. It's gonna have 2 NASA astronauts, 1 UAE astronauts, or United Arab Emirates, and 1 Russian cosmonaut, and they are going to go up to the ISS. So moving on to March 2nd, we are going to have a Jupiter-Venus conjunction, followed by, on March 14th is going to be the peak of the Gamma-Norman meteor shower. This is a really, I don't know, not very intense meteor shower. I was kind of questioning even putting on this list, but it'll have a peak of about 6 meteors per hour. On March 20th is going to be our spring equinox. So that means that the length of day and the length of night is going to be equal, and it marks the beginning of spring in the northern hemisphere and the beginning of fall in the southern hemisphere. So in March, we're supposed to have quite a few launches, actually. All of these dates could be pushed back, of course, due to delays. NASA is going to have its Intuitive Machines 1 launch, and sometime in Q1, so sometime within the first 3 months, supposedly we're going to have the Peregrine Mission 1 launch as well from NASA. In terms of SpaceX launches, we're going to have the first Starship Mars test launch. If it's successful, I believe this is going to be the most powerful rocket ever, which is very cool and very exciting. Also being launched is the Polaris Down Space Tourism mission. I believe this is also going to make history as the first civilian spacewalk. Moving on to Q2 of 2023, beginning in April. April doesn't have very many events, but we have a couple. On April 20th, we're going to have a hybrid solar eclipse, which is very exciting if you live in Indonesia, Australia, or parts of Southeast Asia. Everywhere else, we're not going to be able to see it, but if you're in those areas, it should be pretty cool. On April 22nd is going to be the peak of the Lyran meteor shower. This meteor shower comes from the comet Thatcher and should peak at around 18 meteors per hour. Also being launched in April is supposed to be the Smart Lander for investigating Moon, the SLIM mission from NASA. In May, on May 5th, we're kicking off the month with the penumbral lunar eclipse, which it means that we'll be able to see the Earth's shadow on the moon, but from the astronomy point of view, the moon will be passing through the outer part of the Earth's shadow. We'll be able to see this pretty much everywhere except for the Americas. So if you live in North and South America like me, we're gonna miss it. We're not gonna be able to see it. But if you live anywhere else in the world, you should be able to see this one. On May 6th, so the day after, we will have the Eta Aquarid meteor shower. This should peak at around 10 to 30 meteors per hour in the northern hemisphere. And this one's pretty exciting because it is caused by the debris of Halley's Comet. Yeah, that's it for May. Not very much going on during that month either, but in June, on June 17th, Saturn will enter its retrograde motion. On June 21st, we will have our summer solstice, which marks the beginning of summer for us in the northern hemisphere. It'll mark the beginning of winter for those in the southern hemisphere, and it means that we are going to have our longest day and shortest night. We'll have a few more launches in June. NASA is going to have its Intuitive Machines 2 launch, also called Prime 1, along with the Lunar Trailblazer launch. I believe those two are scheduled to go out on the same rocket. I think on June 20th, we're supposed to have our second Mercury flyby from the Bepi-Colombo mission, which was launched, I believe, in 2018. Moving on to July, we're entering our second half of 2023. On July 3rd, we're gonna have the first supermoon of the year. It's called the Buck Moon. Supermoons aren't really that much bigger than normal moons. Actually, you can't really tell that they're bigger, but it's still, you know, an exciting event. I guess if you call it a supermoon, people are gonna go out to see it. If you're interested, the first one of the year is on July 3rd. Go check it out. On July 6th, Earth is going to be at its aphelion. not pronouncing that right. Anyway, we're going to be furthest away from the sun. Again, the distance between Earth and the sun doesn't really affect us. It doesn't affect our weather. It doesn't affect how hot it is. On July 29th, we're going to have our Delta Aquariid meteor shower. This will be a pretty medium meteor shower. The peak is supposed to have about 25 meters per hour. However, it is best viewed more south, so in like the southern tropics. Also in July, we're supposed to have the launch of the Luna 25 NASA mission, which is the NASA/Russia collaboration. So moving on to August 1st, we're gonna have our second supermoon of the year. It's called the Sturgeon moon. On the 12th, we're gonna have the peak of the Perseid meteor shower. This is one of the most popular meteor showers. Between this one and the Ursid meteor shower that happens in December, these two are gonna be the most active, I guess. The peak should be around 50 to 100 meteors per hour. On August 27th, Saturn is going to be at opposition, which means it's going to be the closest it's ever going to be to Earth. So again, be some cool astrophotography photos, be a good opportunity for that. On August 21st, we are going to have our 6th Venus flyby from the Parker Solar Probe. This is another NASA mission. And on August 31st, we're gonna have our second full moon of the month. And because that there's 2 full moons of the month, the second one is always called a blue moon. Moving on, in September, we're kicking off right away. On September 1st, we have the peak of the Argrid meteor shower. This comes from the comet Kes, and it peaks at around 6 meteors per hour. On September 4th, Jupiter is going to end its retrograde motion. On September 19th, Neptune is going to be at opposition, so Neptune is going to be at its closest point to Earth. And on September 23rd, we're going to have our autumn equinox. So again, the daytime is going to equal to nighttime, and in the northern hemisphere this marks the beginning of fall, and in the southern hemisphere this marks the beginning of spring. On September 24th, actually very exciting, it is the scheduled return date of the OSIRIS-REx mission returning to Earth from the comet Bennu with a sample. So hopefully all goes well. Hopefully we get some really exciting results. This is a long one in the making. Then on September 29th, we're gonna have the last supermoon of 2023. And because it happens in the fall, it is called a harvest moon. All right, moving on to October. October 2nd, we're gonna have Andromeda culmination. October 9th is the peak of the Draconid meteor shower. This one is pretty variable, it's kind of small. October 14th is going to be an annular solar eclipse, so the moon is going to move directly in front of the sun and it's going to cover pretty much the whole sun. This is going to be visible this time. This eclipse is actually visible from North America, which is very exciting. And the path actually goes through the southern parts of North America, through Central America, and then the northern parts of South America. October 21st, we are going to get the Orionid meteor shower peak. This one's pretty small again, but its peak is going to be roughly between 10 and 20 meteors per hour. October 28th, we're going to have a partial lunar eclipse. This is going to be the last eclipse of the year, and it's going to be visible pretty much everywhere except for North America. You know, happy viewing to everyone else. I'm so bitter. We get like 1 eclipse out of like the 4 or 5 that are happening this year. Anyways, also in October, we're supposed to have the launch of NASA's Psyche mission. In November, kicking off with November 3rd, Jupiter is going to be at opposition, so Jupiter is going to be at its closest. November 4th, Saturn is going to end its retrograde motion. November 12th, we're going to have the peak of the Taurid meteor shower. It's really small, going to have a peak of roughly 5 meteors per hour. On the 13th, Uranus is going to be in opposition. On the 15th, we're going to have the peak of the Leonid meteor shower with a peak rate of about 15 meteors per hour. Last but not least, December. December, we still have quite a few events during the last year. So on the 13th, we're going to have the peak of the Geminid meteor shower. Hopefully this is going to be the best meteor shower of the year. We're going to have a peak estimated around 120 meteors per hour, and I think this happens around a new moon, so it should be really dark skies. It's going to be in December, so the nights are going to be really long. It's going to get dark early, so we're going to have a lot of viewing time. There's going to be a lot of meteors. Very excited. I'm very excited for all the photos and the videos that are going to come out afterwards, but actually viewing is going to be gorgeous as well. December 22nd is the winter solstice. So in the northern hemisphere, this marks the beginning of winter. The southern hemisphere marks the beginning of summer, and that is going to have the shortest day and the longest night of the year. December 23rd, we're gonna have the peak of the Ursid meteor shower. This is gonna be the last one of the year. It's gonna be relatively small with a peak of about 10 meteors per hour. And the last event of the year is going to be on December 31st. Jupiter is gonna end its retrograde motion to close out the year of 2023. All right, I think that's it. That's all the events that I have for 2023. Like I said, I probably missed a couple. If there are any that you're excited for that I didn't talk about, please let us know in the comments. And hopefully this year I'm expecting a lot of gorgeous pictures, like always. I'm expecting some really cool discoveries from NASA. Hopefully we'll get some more JWST. Scientific breakthroughs. JWST is just getting going, so I'm sure a lot is going to come out within the next year. Even missions that we've launched a long time ago, we're expecting to get a lot of results this year, which I'm very excited about. And all in all, I think this will be a cool year for astronomy. Yeah, thanks for watching. I'll see you next week. How many times have I said March in that sentence? Probably like 10. I don't know what I'm doing with my hand. I'll fix it in post. It's fine. Ricky, stop licking your butt. It's very distracting. There's always this here. We'll try again. We're in the same